switching to English
Yes.
now, and Instagram will be set up now, and we're live.
So, welcome everybody to the 8th, I think, conference of Confluences this year, 2025. We had so many talks about so many subjects, and we're going back tonight to a subject we've already talked last week or 2 weeks ago, I don't remember, but with a different angle. So tonight we will be talking about the French publishing industry, but not on the author side, but on the publisher's side. And we welcome here tonight Dimitri Pawlowski and Thomas Fouchault from two beautiful publishing houses. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. Dimitri, you can start
Oh,
introducing
okay.
yourself.
I go. Thank you so much for having us tonight. So I am Dimitri Pawlowski. I am the founder of Edition HSN. In French, it's L'homme sans nom. It means man with no name, reference to Ulysse and to the characters of Clint Eastwood in the Western movies. And I publish genre literature. I have published genre literature for 15 years now.
Okay, cool. What about you, Thomas?
Yes, so my name is Thomas Fouchault. I'm the co-publisher of Editions 1115. So we are younger than the Editions HSN, as we have been running now for 9 years, and we publish so sci-fi, fantasy, and other imaginary literature books only in short formats. So we have that kind of little books that are 11 centimeters on 15 centimeters. So it's quite easy to remember the name. And basically, we are looking for some short but impactful works of imaginary literature.
Cool. So kind of two different formats. For HSN, it's more like long novels, and you're more specialized in short novellas and short novels, short stories. Very good.
Yes.
So, as always, we start our conferences with a small question that actually gives many food for brain, and it's a playful question. If you would, each panel we ask this question in a different format, but this one I thought it was like very Frenchy. If you would have to go for a candlelight dinner with a French author, living or dead, which one would you pick and why? If you want to go first, Thomas?
Yeah, I had quite a hard time thinking about this question because I'm not so much of a fanboy usually. So but in the end, I think that I came really back to the roots, and I think it would be Pierre Bordage. So Pierre Bordage is now so he's a French author. He's in his 70s now, but he wrote this series of books which are called The Warriors of Silence. And when I was a teenager, these were the books that really brought me into the sci-fi world. I was so impressed by this work, and it was something so different from everything I have seen or read so far that it sends me on my path to start writing my own stories, and in the end to start publishing them. So it's maybe the most impactful author. So I had the opportunity to meet him several times so far, but I think that the candlelight diner would still be nice.
Okay, cool. Maybe he's following us, even though I don't think so. But yes, candlelight night with our, I don't know, the maître, like the person we admire and we start writing for, is it's a very good option. What about you, Dimitri?
I think I will go, of course, with one of the writers I publish because they are the best. Jokes aside, it's a very difficult question, and if I must go, I think I go with a dead one because the living ones I can try to meet them, and maybe I will go with Alexandre Dumas because I have seen reading a lot of his stories when I was very young. The Three Musketeers is one of my bedtime books. I have very fond memories of reading this book, and I think he has a sense of adventure, the swashbuckling, something very lively, and a way of using strong events in a story, the rhythm of the story. And I would love to discuss with him how he did this to be able to use his advice to accompany my writers.
Okay, cool. And do you think that Dumas is because in France we have this Capedic Pay movement, which is really strong compared to other countries. Do you think that Alexandre Dumas is part of the reason why in France we have this movement?
It was for me or for Thomas?
Both of you. I mean, it's a very French question, so,
Clearly,
so
I think
to answer.
when you have such a writer who wrote such stories, it has a long-term influence. You go in Japan, samurai stories. You go in the US, Western. So you have in each and every country, you have your roots. You have the roots of mythological parts, but also the roots of the writers who did stories along the centuries and who have influence even as of now.
Yeah,
I agree. And also, I think that this genre is so rooted also in the French history, and you always have these famous figures such as the Cardinal of Richelieu or the different kings, Louis XII, Louis XIII, Louis XIV, and so on. And it's something like maybe a part of our a common memory somehow that we can always play with in such a way where the good guys always end up winning, which is always nice as well.
Yes.
yeah.
And about the common mind of the cultural things, it's something I always like to explain to writers who uses words to express certain ideas. You take the word musketeer. You speak to someone about a musketeer, he instantly imagines someone with a rapier, fencing, and so on. When historically speaking, a musketeer is someone with a musket, but it's not the idea that people have about a musketeer because of the stories.
Yeah, so a word changing meaning because of a writer, and
Exactly.
that's very interesting. There, yes, I've never thought of that, by the way. And so yes, you're actually focusing. We are actually going to answer the next question. So, do you think that this is a particular flavor to the French fantasy and science fiction world, like this heritage of the language?
I
Feel free to
Thomas.
answer. You
Yeah.
can start.
That wasn't what I thought of first. I would say that first, I when I thought about this question, I thought, but yeah, there is no real difference between what we do in France and what we do elsewhere. But then something else pop up in my mind is that in France we really love to market imaginary books as something way more respectable than they are, because in France we still have that kind of cultural aristocracy, according to which, well, if it's imaginary, fantasy, sci-fi, or anything else is for children. So it's not something so respectful and so worth the time of respectable adult people. And so we can see that we have a lot of imaginary books actually that are really popular as well, but they're just sold as this kind of general literature, white literature, as we say in French, which is supposed to be contemporary literature of anything else. But actually, it's talking about other words or some strange events happening. And we have some of the most famous contemporary contemporary authors also in there, with, for instance, Guillaume Musso or Marc Lévy, or more recently Alain Damasio, which are praised by the critics or praised by the public, depending on which. But yeah, they come out of this kind of small bubble that we have with sci-fi books to become more respectable and more visible also in all the media. So I would say that maybe this is one of the specifics in France where we cannot really have two separate markets that are sold the same way, but we always need to put something more more respectable clothes on sci-fi somehow.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I think it also brings something exciting about French genre literature, is that writers love to mix genres, to have fantasy with mystery, to have horror with philosophy, and so on. We love to mix genres, to try hybridations. And
Yeah.
I'm not expert in other languages, but I think French literature, French genre literature is very, very eager to try things. I think others in other countries, of course,
Yeah.
do this, but I think French writers really try this very, very hard.
Yes, that's something we know that compared, for example, to the Anglo-Saxons, which are the vast majority of the market that are very into stereotypes. The French market it's less on stereotypes. It's the first thing when you write in French that you hear is just break the stereotypes. Just do not do the typical writing, creative writing workshop style of writing. It's the first thing a publisher tells you in France.
Yes.
So yeah, and one more personal question. Coming back to more personal questions, what brought you to the publishing world? You both. I mean, of course, love for literature, because how you're speaking about the literature, but is there an event or something that made you wanting to publish more than writing, or even writing? Because Thomas, you're also an author. We will talk about that later. But what brought you to the act of publishing, of editing?
I don't know how it happened for you, Thomas, but for me it was quite natural. I was studying many subjects when I was younger. I worked as a freelance journalist in geek culture, and one day I had an opportunity to work in a bookshop for 3 months. I was replacing someone. After that, one friend of mine who knew I was good in writing and in finding problems in sentences and to do proofreading asked me, "Do you want to work with me? I have founded a manga publishing house. I need someone to work with me to proofread the books and so on." And so I went to work for a comic book manga publisher, and it was step after step that I found myself quite naturally. When my work with this manga publisher finished, I had a bit of money, and I had two options. I could learn to drive and buy a car, or I could fund a publishing house. And I thought it was more of a professional project to bring some good books to writers. And for the little story, one thing that helped me decide was I was online gamer. I played a lot of World of Warcraft. And
Oh yes,
when
wow.
when you do online games, you discuss with other people. And when I told them I was in a manga publishing house, so in the world of writing and so on, I discovered many people had books, had projects, had wants of writing, and I thought there is so many good books. They can't find a publisher, so maybe I can become a publisher to discover books. And what was at the beginning a small idea, helping to launch HSN, has become, I think, the main credo of the publishing house, that is to discover new French talents. So it has been quite an organic journey. As for me, I don't know for you if it was a vocation, you studied publishing world and so on, but I think it will be quite the same as me. You came to publishing as a naturally thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's first time I hear about your own journey, so it's really interesting. So thanks for sharing that. For me, maybe it was less straightforward, as it was more of an unexpected journey. In a way that I published my first book in 2019 in the edition.
As a writer, right?
Yes, as a writer in Editions 2015, which were founded by my associate, Frédéric Dupuis. So I started just by being in the book fairs with him, as I had the driver license, so I had the car, but he didn't. He needed a ride to go to all around the country to show the books and to attend the book fairs. So actually, we spent quite a lot of time together. So we could see that we had a good chemistry, and we had a good complementary each one another. So actually, it was one night where we came back driving from the other part of France, from Brittany, and we had an 8-hour trip back home. It was a pitch dark outside, and as we were discussing from one thing to another, he told me that he was thinking about the future of the publishing house, and what would I think if he proposed me to become an associate with him. So I thought about this because it was at this crazy time of my life. We were right after the Corona crisis. So I had just left my job, became independent in a way to, I would say, to have this kind of balance between my other work and my writing work, to have time to write novels and so on. And I thought, okay, but this is something new, and how am I going to manage to have also a third activity in all of that? So I thought a lot about it, and then I saw that, life is made of this kind of opportunities, and you always have opportunities to learn, to grow, and to do something new. So I said, okay, so let's do it, let's try. And it happens that I enjoy it a lot. So I hadn't studied this at all. I came more like a technician of the writing in some way, because I'm more into the writing itself. And as in publishing house, we're a bit like this kind of MacGyvers of the publishing, where we do a lot of things in house because we don't have so much means. So we do with what we have. It's also a good opportunity to learn to do different things, and then to try to do things our own way. So it's unexpected, but I'm really glad it went this way.
Yeah.
I love what you said about the thing. We do so many things. When you are a small publisher, you don't only work on books, on the technique writing, or only with the writer, but you also prepare the books, speak with the printers, prepare the covers with the artist and so on. So you learn a lot of stuff. Exactly.
Yeah. And you said something very interesting that for me it's really French, even though I know it exists in other countries. But for the French-speaking world, it's something that is huge. It's conventions. Like in the French industry, a lot of publishing houses are not in bookshops, but most of the time, but are living off conventions, or at least at the beginning, it's a real huge part of the French literary world to be in conventions, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So maybe I can start first, and then Dimitri can complement.
Yes.
But for as we are quite small, We don't necessarily have the to start off the like when we start publishing our books, we need to have some kind of history already to be able to be in the bookshops, to have contracts with other logistical partners who can bring our books in all the bookshops, and to make sure that we will get some return of investment as well, because it's quite risky on the business side. So the best way to de-risk all of this is to start at a small scale and to go right to the buyers and to the fandom in these conventions. It's as well a good way to start having your books and to sell them and to see what is working and what is not working, what in your way of doing is also, I would say, in line with the standards or not, and what also to find yourself in some way, to find your own, like what makes your specificity, what makes really your line in this huge universe of sci-fi books. And I think it's really a really good first step. And that's also something really interesting for us, is that it's a way where you meet really passionate people who today are buying your books, but tomorrow could also be your authors or working with you. As all of this is a really small bubble in the end. So it's the best way also to get acquainted with the people who matter today, but mostly with those who will matter tomorrow.
Yeah. Or with whom we can have like public readings.
Yeah, or beers or coffees, which are always nice part
So
of
it's something that I spoke with other people from other countries, and it's they're kind of shocked when I tell them in France we have that a lot of conventions and people meet even between different publishing houses, and Dimitri, you can tell us your experience as well as.
It's very interesting because, as for myself, I chose when I began to be present in bookstores. It was something I wanted. I knew the risks. It was financially quite difficult in the beginnings, but it was something I wanted. But I also needed to be present in conventions. If I hadn't been in conventions, HSN wouldn't exist anymore. So even if you have a presence in bookshops, when you are a small publisher in France, you need to go to conventions to sell directly to your public, because you, of course, make more money when you sell directly to someone than when you have a commercial distribution bookshops who take their share. So it's a global economical question, and I can clearly understand why you choose in the beginning to do only things directly, because it's a very big risk. And I think for you, even more, because you're publishing short stories that sells at lower prices. So when you sell one short story in a bookshop, you gain almost nothing.
Yeah, we need to sell maybe 3 of our books to match one of yours. So that's also something to take into account in the business model. But something that you mentioned is really important, is that I think we need to make our brands known also to the public. And this is something that is mostly achievable in the conventions, because, well, in the bookshops you can easily be, I would say, a bit crushed by the bigger publishers who have this kind of collection that are well known, that have also take a lot of space in the shelves. And to find yourself, to find one of your books in these shelves among so many other publishing houses on once, and also in competition with some translations from authors from other countries, is something that might be a bit more difficult also to make yourself seen and known, rather than just having to start with your booth in a convention and your brand shown there.
And even if you have a good place on the shelves, it has happened for some of the books I published, it's hard to make people remember your brand name. They remember maybe the writer, they remember the book, but the brand that published the book, it's harder. And in conventions, people come see you because you are 15, because you are HSN, and they love what you publish, and they want to discover your new publications.
Yeah.
Conventions, people going to conventions, especially literary SFF conventions, are there because they love SFF and they want to, like, they come with a suitcase to fill in with books. So yeah, it's kind of a particular vibe, I would say. And as you told, as you said, Thomas, there are people coming also to meet publishers because they want to be published. So there's this ambience of wannabe writers, publishers, editors, translators, all together. So it's a dynamic moment for everyone. And talking about wannabe authors, what flavor do you look for when you read a manuscript? For example, if someone pitches you the manuscript or the book during a book fair, or when you read a manuscript you receive, how do you choose your editorial line? Or maybe if you have one, but you say this book, it's not exactly what I'm looking for, but I love it. So I it's not exactly what I publish now, but it's something I want in my collection. How does it work? Especially because we are talking about authors going to conventions to present the books.
It's a vast question. I think, as for myself, I love when there is an idea, something that will appeal to me, because I am excited to know more about the story. Maybe it wasn't so present when I began, but seeing what I published and what I love to discover the past years, I don't like the term, but it's a bit like this. I love when there is a high concept, something that will be exciting, something that will make me able to pitch the book in one sentence, to have a strong idea. And I think when a writer comes to meet a publisher, even if his or her book is full of tropes, quite classical, you need to have an idea to put forth in speaking to me about the book. I don't know if it's the same for short stories for you, Thomas.
Well, the good thing about short stories is that you can read them quite fast, which is not, well, it doesn't really reflect on our fastness to answer all the manuscripts we have, but it's still easier to make up your mind about a story. And as we like to present ourselves as a literary travel agency, what we really like is to be spirited away by the stories. So I don't really have so many expectations when I receive some project about a book. I usually don't really select it on the pitch, because I'd rather see, okay, you have a nice idea, but how is it written? How do you execute your idea? And I think that's the most interesting thing in these books. So what I really like is when I'm really carried away to some other place, other times, other countries, or social conditions as well, and not only for the sake of escapism, but also to find some unique views about the society, or unique ways to talk about some problems that we all face in our real world. And then what is really nice also that you can evolve over time, over the years, and you see a bit more what you like, also the publisher, and I really, well, on my side, I really like when it's about personal stories. Like it's more something that's more on the personal side, as I'm more an introvert myself. It's maybe something that speaks to me when there are some I don't know, some kind of issues with someone's place in the society, someone's place in the family, and you can put that in a sci-fi setting or in a fantasy setting where, of course, they also have to save the world because it's gonna collapse if they say no to their mother-in-law. You see, but I don't know. It's just the way that the author surprises me with all the kind of tropes that we have already today on a platter, and how they can mix things or even create something completely unexpected. And that is something that will be a big yes for me.
Cool.
Something very interesting in what you said about escapism and serious subjects. And I think genre literature, fantasy, and so on, it's one of the genres of writing where you can combine the two. You can have both escapism and serious subjects.
We
I
had this
will
discussion. Oh, sorry. Yes. Go on. Sorry.
I will, because he's working with you, I will speak about Romain Delplanque with the city with the glass ceiling. It's a book that's very witty, very full of adventure, but it's also about very serious social subjects. And that's something I really loved in the book. It wasn't a book to only speak about serious subjects. It was serious subjects in a good fantasy book. And genre literature, I think, even allows to go further in your exploration of serious stories.
Yes. That's also something that to me strikes as a very French thing, though. Like this, especially this social things we have in French literature. This I wouldn't say that it doesn't exist in other countries, but there is this Frenchiness when we talk about social issues, especially, that is very French to me. I mean, me reading other languages as well, I see that other countries do in their way, but there is some themes, some idea that really, really French in this this escapism and serious things. And especially one thing I'd really liked, you mentioned Romain, which is for people that have been following Confluences, the other presenter, is that most of the time we people use also part of the French history to in a fantasy way. So, for example, the book you mentioned is the Commune of Paris. So that's a very something that I really feel very French. For example, as a
and I think it goes with what we were saying in the beginning about the way French literature is in hybridation with other genre, with classical literature, with his willingness of greatness. And I think it must be something that makes writers want to have social subjects. It's not. I don't think it's something very conscious, but something natural that comes when the writers think about a story. The idea of adding some serious subjects, some social stories, some characters stories like you love, Thomas. I think it comes naturally to French writers because of the fact that classical literature is indeed seen as a good literature. So I think it's not conscious, but it feeds the writers, and instead of having something bad coming out of this, it brings, I believe, great stories to write it and to read.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, sorry, I was.
No, I just second what he just said, and maybe we
The
also have in France like so many cultural influences also, and because we like a rich history in itself, but also all this all that has happened also over the time with so different distinctive historical periods, and I would say all the rise and fall of French empires and so on, and there's lots of inspiration also to be found in the past, and it's easier than
Yes.
to just plug in something that is, as Dimitri said before, in this common mind of all the French people.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And there is, as you mentioned, Romain, which is and it made me think of a question that I didn't prepare, but it's a very funny question because and I thought it when you talked about Romain because his last book is a huge book, and one thing that is pretty common in France is to have like huge books, and that's very funny because Thomas, you have like short stories. It's because one of the things I learned when I start like myself publishing is that French people want to read like super long stories. That's one of the first things that I have been told. But your experience, Thomas, is completely different on that topic, right?
Well, I think it's like in France, we like to see the like really the novel as the masterpiece somehow,
Yeah.
and that's what we discuss the most. That's what's also the most visible in the media. Like now we're in September, and it's like this come back from holidays in the literature world, and it's all about the first novels and so on and so on. And all the short stories have actually been well, they were really popular, I would say, more in the 19th century, but then they somehow just went out of fashion. So in France, while they were still big in the Anglo-Saxon world, I believe. So
Yeah, that's true.
I would say now it's more like maybe for the 15 past years, a comeback of the short stories in a way that people have less time to read, and they are faced with all kind of different media to entertain themselves. Now they have Netflix, they have television, video games, and so on, and they also their own personal lives to carry out throughout the year. And this time that can be devoted to reading is something that is becoming like smaller and smaller and even more precious. So I think that we have some people who pay more attention to the short stories than before, and we can see that also in the market as we have more and more publishing houses that start publishing small stories as well. Maybe 7 years ago, maybe 2, 3, 4 actors on that level. Now might be something like 10. So it's growing fast. I think it's following the trend of consumption of reading in France.
Yeah,
And,
that's a very interesting thing.
and
Yes,
even for bigger publishers, you see more and more short stories being published. They are compiled in full length books with 10 or 12 short stories. But I love myself to read short stories on my free time. And 10 years ago, when I went to my bookshop and I asked my friend there, do you have a good short story book to give me? He often didn't have anything, and now each time I ask for a short stories book, he has something great to give me. So clearly there is a revival of short stories in France, and I think the time of attention and the time of disponibility of readers is of course a cause of this. And we see this also for novels. It's harder and harder to sell long novels. Uh, but I think it's global. There's many explanations. maybe the fact that there has been very, very, very long English fantasy sagas,
Yeah.
10, 12, 15 volumes, and you wait and you wait, and the writer dies, and you never have the end, or the publisher stop publishing the stories. And I think readers have been fed up of this, maybe a bit, so they went for shorter stories, and it's like it's snowballing effect because it sells less. Publishers, when I began publishing, to publish 4, 5, 6 novels saga, it was quite often that we tried this. I had long sagas when I began. Now I can't go more than 3, more than trilogy. It's very, very complicated. And when I discuss with other publishers, some of them tell me maybe even 2 books, we sometimes hesitate because it's too long. So clearly there is a situation, and I think it will evolve, it will change with time and so on, because it's always cycles. It's cyclical. But as of now, except in certain genres, it's very hard to have 5, 6 books for a same story.
Yeah. And even readers ask a lot, is it like a one shot? Is it like one shot? I mean, a lot of readers are more into trying to read more different writers than being stuck with one writer and one story for a long time. I mean, there are fandoms, of course, but it's less common than it used to be, I guess. And that's a good transition to the next question. Does it happen you really love a manuscript, for example, a trilogy, but you find it impossible to put it in your collection? So one of the answers would be no, because it's a too long saga. Maybe you like the first chapter, but the author tells you it's a long sagas of 12 books, and you find it possible to publish 12 books. But are there other reasons you refuse a manuscript, but you like it? You say, I really enjoyed it, but it's not gonna work for me. Does it happen to you, or is something when you really like something, you tell yourself, I will publish it?
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is that as we are 2 co-publishers in our publishing house, we both have to agree on what we're going to publish. And it happens that there are some manuscripts that I really like, but he doesn't, and the other way around. So then it's also negotiations among ourselves that we need to, to convince the other one that, okay, this is going to sell, and it's not just a good book that will remain on your bookshelf, but also that other readers can enjoy. And if we pass this test, then okay, we can go on, and maybe it will work, and usually it does. But yeah, sometimes I have these manuscripts that I really like, I really defend it, but somehow it doesn't. There's something that doesn't do it, and it's also a question of how much work it would be to rewrite it. You see, it's always also this question of what is the risk also behind. Like if I say yes, and then the writer does his best, but it's still not what I was expecting, or still not what I wanted it to be, what am I gonna do? Like, am I still gonna publish it? Am I gonna just let it down? It's a complicated question. So it's better to be sure that this will work and we're aligned with what is proposed before going further, than just abandoning someone like midway into the river. You see, I think this would be the worst situation. And then sometimes I see these manuscripts being published in some other publishing companies, and I'm really happy about that, because it means that maybe it wasn't the one for us, but it is the one for other ones. And it's not because we say no to manuscripts that it's not good. It's just that it's maybe not good at that given time and at that given period and at that given also state of mind we had when we read the manuscripts. So actually, this is quite tricky to find really the good timing when manuscript will do the trick and when it will not.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about this, Dimitri.
Yes, there is many things you told I recognize myself in, but I think because I publish longer books, it's a bit easier for me to make my mind earlier. And with experience, now when I read a presentation or I read the first pages, even if the book seems good, I can really quickly know if it's for me or not. So I don't have so many regrets as I could have 10 years ago. Also because I receive much more manuscripts than before. 5 years ago, when I opened my submissions, the submission of manuscript, I received 100 manuscripts. So I had more time to delve deeper inside them. Now, when I open the submissions of manuscripts, I receive about 600 books.
Wow.
So, of course, I have to decide myself quicker because I would love to read from the first last page each and every one of these books, but it's clearly impossible. So I have to make quick decisions. And when I see a story is interesting, but I don't like it myself, I go to the next one. If I find it exceptional, but I am not personally convinced, I will go deeper, of course, because I am not the universal way of thinking, of course, and hopefully. And that's a good thing that as publishers, and it's quite complicated, we have to think about what we like, because if we don't like a book, we can work on it in the right way, and we can't give people the wish to read it, but also think about how the readers will receive the book. Will they like it? Will the book be too niche for them? I know I like things a bit experimental sometimes, but you can go with experimental writing up to a certain level. If you go too far, the readers won't follow. And if I publish a book for which I have spent hundreds of hours working with the writer to sell 100 copies of people telling it's wonderful, but I lose a lot of money, sadly. And I think it's something that's really complicated for small and passionate publishers as we are, is that the book world, it's an artistic industry.
Yeah.
And art and industry, it's theoretically not compatible, but we have to make them work together. And it's what I explain sometimes to writers. Sadly, if I only publish good books that don't sell, one day I won't publish any good book anymore. So we have to compromise without compromising ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's quite complicated because, as I tell, if someone comes to me and tells me, I have the new Twilight, I assure you, you will sell 2 million copies. It's a bad book, but you will sell 2 million copies. Of course, I will do it because one time, but after that, I can publish only the good books I want to publish. But sadly, nobody can be sure about the success of a book, so I can't take the risk of publishing a bad book, hoping to sell a lot.
Yeah.
And sorry for Twilight fans.
So yeah, it's a good balance between marketing and personal taste
Yeah.
on how a book must be. And in your case, Thomas, also a compromise, connection between you and not a connection. I'm losing my words. A compromission between you and your partner as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's never an easy task to decide which book you're going to publish, because it's several things you have to take into account, and and
Maybe there's something else I can bring up about this is that
yeah.
it's not only about the book; it's also about the writer.
Mm-hmm.
As
Yes, of course.
well, like we are not just dealing with a text that is coming and we turn it into a book that will sell. It's also, I would say, a business partner that will be
Yeah,
here,
of course.
will be here to stay as well. So, is there also a good connection with that person? Do you
Mm.
feel that you're gonna have good work with him, or would that people bring you a really good book, but you feel that it will also bring you a lot of trouble? I think these are
Mm-hmm.
also some questions that can pop up in your mind when you're meeting someone for the first time. And
And
yeah, it's also because our industries are quite fragile. Uh,
mm,
we cannot really, I would say, afford having big losses. So we really
mm,
need to be sure both about what we're going to publish, but also who we're going to work with.
Yeah,
And
of course.
did you,
that's when the conventions are really become really handy as well, because it's an opportunity to meet people and to see first if these are people you think you will get along with or not.
Of course. Of
I,
course.
I have a question for you, Thomas. Did you already give up on publishing a book after having met the writer when you loved the book initially?
It hasn't happened to me yet, and that's a good thing. I hope it will never get to that, because it's also quite awkward. Uh, but I believe that I how to say, if the book speaks to me, there's a way that the messenger will also speak to me. You see,
Yeah.
Mm,
so yeah, I just hope that we won't get to
yeah.
that. But I know that for my associate, it has happened that he had it's more in a way that it can disqualify people.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a really bad interaction with someone, well, then maybe you're gonna prioritize someone else.
Yeah.
It's sadly happened to me at least once. It was a writer. He had high expectations, high communication expectation, investments on commercials and so on. So I knew I couldn't do it, and I explained it to him. He told me, "Of course, no problem," but I was sure that it would be complicated because wasn't able to do this. Even if he told me, "No problem, no problem," I knew in the way of interacting with him, it would be actually a problem and it will be complication. It's
Yeah,
it's it's a difficult moment to you get out of the meeting. You think to yourself, what do I do? The book is good, the writer seems nice, but I won't be able to meet his expectations,
mm.
and it will probably go sour with him. And I don't want to risk this because, as you told, we're independent publisher. Where we big publishing groups, it wouldn't be the same thing. But I don't think we want to be big publishing groups because we want to have these relationships with the writer, this mutual creation, and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's something that most people do not know, but because they think they just send a book and the book is published. But there is a huge work of editing. So editing the not only correcting the language, but also rewriting some passages. You have this connection to the writer that, for example, doesn't exist in translation. So it's something we do not know at Hikaya because yet, but it's part of what makes the connection between a writer and an editor and publisher special, especially for small publishing houses, and especially if afterwards the writer is coming to conventions. So the connection between the writer and the publisher is important because you're, as you said, Thomas, working together. It's a business partner.
Yeah. And something else also which is important is that that person will also be, when you're in convention, like part of the faces of your publishing house. And and you know that some people can be more easygoing than others, or can have a better, well, just be more friendly than others as well. And we're not, of course, not saying that everyone should be friendly and so on, because we also have authors that don't really like this exercise. It's perfect for them. But we also have to keep in mind that the impression that these people give us might also be the impression these people give to the readers, and then the impression that will stay to them when they think about our publishing house. So there is all this thing about reputation also which is at stake, and we don't want to ruin the reputation because, well, unfortunately, we are not getting along with one of our writers.
Yeah, that's entirely true. I mean,
There
you
is
buy a
something
book
very
from a person if you like, from a person that actually inspires you to buy the book more than one person who is like more reserved. Yes, we were talking, Dimitri. Sorry, I cut
no
you.
problem. There is something I think that's very interesting and exciting when you work with a writer, is that as a publisher, as an editor, you have to help the writer to make the best of his or her story. So you bring your ideas, but on the spectrum of the writer. You have to quite make a sidestep to not impose your ideas, but give ideas to the writer, make proposals, and so on. And another question for you, Thomas, as you are also a writer, how do you make it work to make the part of your creative process and your helping of the creative process of the writer with whom you work?
I think I can put myself away quite easily on that, in the way that I can propose some ideas, mostly on how I analyze the story, what it really talks about, and how we can connect this to something else to make it more interesting or more exciting to the reader. But then the choice is up to the author. And
Exactly.
And there's something also which is important in how we choose our books, is that we say yes when we get the manuscripts, and then we have all this editorial process going on, and we want to be sure that, okay, even if the author says no to everything we suggest, we're still okay with the book, because we will never go against the will of the author in any way. And in some cases, for instance, we have, changed the ending, and I thought it made it better. In some other cases, we propose to have some bigger changes to root the stories more in some historical context, and to give more depth to the reading also of the story. And the author did not like this idea, so it's okay. We just scrapped that idea away, and we went with how we wanted it to go. But I think that my creative part here comes more with how I can come up with different ideas, and mostly on how that book is speaking to me and what kind of sensibility it brings up, and then I just try to follow that line and to see, okay, but how can we emphasize this part, or how can we have another counterpart and make it all like to have more layers and more dimensions than what it might look at first.
Yes, we have to do a lot of analyzing. We analyze the stories, and I think something very interesting in what you said is that we have to publish the story even if the writer doesn't want the changes. And I think it's more something for long novels. Sometimes I meet the writer before signing the contract, and I discuss with him about the book, because for me there is changes that are necessary to have a book I want to publish. So I discuss with the writer. I tell him, I thought about this, and this. What do you think about this? If he tells me, okay, so we go on. If he tells me, I don't like it, I tell him, so sorry, it won't bring the book where I want the book to be published. So we'll stop here. But of course, it's for big changes we can discuss beforehand. And I will never make a writer make big changes on his book, and after that tell him, no, I won't publish it. And I know some publishers sometimes do this, that I think it's not a good way to do things. You have to go step by step with a writer. And of course, once we have signed the contract, it's the same as you. I know the book, even if we don't change anything, I will be okay with publishing this. It's the same as you, because it's a discussion you have with a writer, but the story, it's his or her story, and that's the important thing. And sometimes can be quite funny. I was working on a book with a writer, I won't give names, and I made a proposal to change something during the ending. He told me, I understand, but I don't like it. Okay, no problem. He changed some things anyway during for the ending. I went again, okay, I think it's more interesting this way, but I think this idea might be interesting. No, he told me. We went on, and for the last version he was to send me, he told me, I have taken some time to think, and finally, your idea, indeed, I love it, so I used it. And I think it's very interesting that if I had tried to impose the idea to him, to tell him it's this or we don't publish, nothing good would have come out of it. I just was explaining to him why I thought it was a good idea, and he used it, he doesn't use it, but I gave him things to think about. And I think it's our role as publisher is to give options to the writers to explore different paths and use this path or do not.
And I like this idea also to, I would say, not to be the one guiding the author, but more walking along with him on the same trail, and to see, okay, be careful that here there is some kind of big rock, and make sure not to hurt yourself, or maybe you can go this way, and he say, but I don't want to turn to the right, but turn to the left, and I can still go on the path, and you can go on with him, and then see a bit further away. Okay, maybe you can cross this, I don't know, this road by building a bridge, or by doing like Tarzan on a vine, or anything else. But it's that's also the interesting part, is how you can then be somehow just on the shoulder of the author, like some kind of small angel or small devil, and poking him into in some corners, and see how he's gonna react, and how he can then, as you said before, prepare the best, bring his work up to the best quality where he can go at that given time.
Yes,
you're basically Gandalf. To use like a fantasy metaphor. Yeah, that's very interesting, and very, very, very interesting, especially for viewers that would like to write because they might expect us to send the manuscript and that everything is perfect, which is, well, can be the case, but I think most of the time you still need a Gandalf to guide you somewhere with the
Yeah,
story.
that's what we are here for, and I think
Yeah.
it's really
Yes.
important also to demystify this. That like when you see films, movies, or different stories about non-writers showing how writers are doing, like they're just typing on their old typing machine all night, and then they have a manuscript and send it on the post, and then okay, it's good, and it's a bestseller, and it'll be everywhere. Well, that's not life. The real work happens. Well, first when you rework your drafts, and after that when you can go the last mile with your publisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it that sometimes I get books that if I was a lazy publisher, I could take the book and send it to the printer and do nothing because it's a high quality book. But I know that taking some time to work on the book, it's just as we were telling just before, we can make it go higher in quality, even if the book is already great in the
Mhm.
beginning. You have
Yeah.
just a higher basis to work on. And it's always useful to work with the writers, even if they have a lot of experience, even if their book is great. I think working with them maybe to change one comma, you can make the book a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, I have this metaphor, which came into mind when you, Thomas, told about the movie. It's like having good actors, but you still have someone adjusting the music at the
Mm.
right tone,
Mm.
adjusting the lights, the chromatic scale on the final cut to have like the final perfect scene you want. So you're basically the art director
Mm.
of the book, and the writer is basically the rest of the crew
Mm.
and the actors.
I love
And
the
Yeah,
I
yeah,
idea.
think this
makes sense.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. I have two more questions on my sheet. The seventh question so far. Do you have a particular work which is like the most Hikaya? The two last ones are the most Hikaya compatible questions. Do you have a particular work that do you think would be best suited for an international public, and why? Do you think that you have one particular work you say, and I will ask the same the other question in the same sentence, so you can explain why not. Do you think you have an untranslatable book, and why? Do you think there are specificities that cannot pass into other cultures? So
Mm.
you do have someone
Well,
that you think he might be talking to other cultures, and do you think you have something that is really French, it cannot be translated? For you,
it
what do you
might
think
it might be a bit
generally?
pretentious, but
Hmm?
I think I am a bit pretentious, but I think all of the books I publish are good for translations
Mm.
because there
Mm-hmm.
are good stories, and that's the main thing. And also, when you're doing translations, you are a translator, Davide. I also do translation. I work with translators from different languages, mainly from Japanese to French. So culturally, it's quite different. And if you have a good translator, you can translate anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm.
don't think there is a story, there is a book that can be brought to another country, to another language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And we also have this specific thing in all these sci-fi and fantasy books that we are talking about archetypes. We're talking about some common cultural grounds or common hardships that we face as human beings, regardless of the culture or regardless of where we're born. As we are talking about people living in the year 3000, or I don't know, in the
Mm.
Middle Ages, or in the dinosaur kingdom or whatever. So I think it's really coming down to what are really the I would say the joys and the griefs of humankind. So in that sense, I think that it's quite easy to translate some fantasy or sci-fi books from French or another language, or the other way around. And as we're also really interested in what is happening somewhere else in other cultures, in other places, I would say that we are maybe expecting also a bit to be maybe moved, maybe shocked, maybe just questioned by how things are happening differently in a story than what we are expecting in our everyday life. So maybe that's only a misconception I have, but I would think that it's way easier to translate or to read this kind of literature from other countries than with some more like contemporary literature.
Mm-hmm. And yet, as you know, because it's a very Hikaya compact, is the least translated least translated country-wise literature, which is, I mean, the weirdest thing about this is that we translate from just one language, as we know, and so that's very interesting. Yes.
There is one thing: the fact that one story can or cannot be translated, and I think we all believe that any story can be translated for another language, for another culture, maybe with a bit of work to do explanations, cultural explanations, because sometimes story has very deep in roots specific of one country. But there is another thing that we were speaking then about artistic, but there is industry facet of the thing. Will this translated book find readers in another country? And this is another problem, but it's different about the fact of, can it be translated? Yes. Will it sell sufficiently to have it translated? It's another question.
Yeah. Maybe here, maybe one of the main differentiators could be maybe when you are dealing with humor or with I don't know, so maybe some political satire or this kind of thing that are quite referenced also in your own country. Like I would say that the French humor is something that might be a bit difficult to translate in Japanese, for instance, or the other way around, because we are not working with the same on the same standards with that, or and maybe that would be the hardest part in the work in the translated work, I guess.
Yes, but we could publish Monty Python in French. So if we could publish translate the Monty Python in French, I think we can translate any humor in any language. But of course, as you said, it's more difficult because you have a lot of adaptation work. You have to change the joke. You have to change the idea to have something more culturally understandable. But you have to be careful not to go too far. You can't make a reference about an historical event in the other country as a pop culture story in your country. You are going too far in adaptation work. So it's there that the thing is complicated, is that you have to keep the idea behind the joke or behind the cultural specificity you are trying to translate. But I think Davide will have many examples about this.
Yeah, I do have so many, and I have maybe one that is pop culture, French pop culture, is how back in the days people used to translate names of anime and manga characters into French names, and then, for example, these, I don't remember which one, but there was this series where the names were Frenchified, but they were in Japan, and at the end of the series they went to France. So they were like, I don't know if it was like Jean and Sarah or something like that, and then at the end of the series they went to France. Like, yeah, the adaptation. You also need to know the end of the book to
Full
be
story.
able to
Yes.
a proper adaptation. Yes, that's
Yeah.
you have too many of these stories when you start translating. So yeah. And the final question would be: what would you say to your international public? So you have your French public, but now at Confluence, a lot of people from other countries are following the conference, or will follow review the replay. What would you say to them?
I think, and I go for HSN and 1115. For our international viewers, go see your publishers and tell them our books are great and need to be translated in your language.
That's
Yeah,
very
I think yeah, and if you want to have some great French literature, both in big books in HSN and in really small ones in 1115, you have all kind of new formats also to bring in your countries, and new kind of stories to discover. It will be a pleasure to discuss with you and to see how we can bring our publishing companies also overseas. That would be great.
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
The cat is,
So,
is agree.
yes.
Yeah.
I can second that. The French industry is really good, and it needs to be discovered worldwide. So with that, that was the last question. I will see. So I thank you for the public for having me here. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Dimitri,
Thank you.
for this beautiful talk tonight. The next talk will be about Palestine. So I will not be a host. I will be an interviewed for once, which changes me a lot. And it will be on Thursday. So stay tuned. And I don't know if you have a final thing you want to say, you both, to the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all.
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you. Cool.
It has been a great discussion. I enjoyed it a lot. So thank you, Davide, for hosting this discussion and for creating this opportunity also to discuss with Dimitri and and then
Yes,
to
it was
also
very
address
nice.
to the audience. It's a really nice evening.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. It was really great to have you both here tonight. And it's magic time actually for us during this month of conferences. So I hope you had your share of this magic tonight. So I will end the stream in 1, 2, 3.